Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This fairy tale is called Snow White Learns Witchcraft. One day she looked into her mother's mirror. The face looking back was unavoidably old, with wrinkles around the eyes and mouth. I've smiled a lot, she thought, laughed less, and cried a little. A decent life, considered altogether. She'd never asked it, the fatal question that leads to a murderer's heart and red-hot iron shoes. But now, being curious, when it scarcely mattered, she recited, "Mirror, mirror," and asked the question, "Who is the fairest?" Would it be her daughter? No, the mirror told her. Some peasant girl in a mountain village she had never even heard of. Well, let her be fairest. It wasn't so wonderful being fairest. Sure, you got to marry the prince, at least if you were royal, or became his mistress. If you weren't, because princess don't marry commoners, whatever the stories tell you. It meant your mother, whose skin was soft and smelled of Parma violets, who watched your father with a jealous eye, might try to eat your heart, metaphorically. Or not. It meant the huntsman sent to kill you would try to grab and kiss you before you ran into the darkest and the darkness of the sheltering forest. How comfortable it was to live with dwarves who didn't find her particularly attractive. 7 brothers to whom she was just a child, and then, once she grew tall, an ungainly adolescent, like the shy, delicate dwarf woman who lived deep in the forest, she was constantly tripping over the child-sized furniture they carved, with patterns of hearts and flowers on winter's evenings. She remembers when the peddler woman came to her door, with laces, a comb, and then an apple. "How pretty you are, my dear," the peddler told her. It was the first time anyone had said that she was pretty since she left the castle. She didn't recognize her, if she had. "Mother," she would have said. "Mother, is that you?" How would her mother have answered? Sometimes she wishes the prince had left her sleeping in the coffin. He claimed he woke her up with true love's kiss. The dwarf said actually his footman tripped and jogged the apple out. She prefers that version. It feels less burdensome, less like she owes him, because she never forgave him for the shoes. Red-hot iron and her mother dancing in them. The smell of burning flesh. She has nightmares. It wasn't supposed to be fatal, he insisted. Just teach her a lesson. Give her blisters and boils. Make her repent her actions. No one dies. From dancing in iron shoes. She must have had some sort of heart condition, and after all, the woman did try to kill you. She didn't answer. And so she inherited her mother's mirror, but never consulted it, knowing too well the price of coveting beauty. She watched her daughter grow up, made sure the girl could run and fight, because princesses needed protecting, and sometimes princes are worse than useless. When her husband died, she went into mourning. Secretly, she was relieved that it was over. A woman's useful life, nurturing, procreative. Now she thinks, "I'll go to the house by the seashore where in summer we would like to take the children. Really a small castle, with maybe one servant. There I will grow old, wrinkled and whiskered, my hair as white as snow, my lips thin and bloodless, and my skin mottled. I'll walk along the shore collecting shells, read all the books I've never had the time for, and study witchcraft. What should women do when they grow old and useless? Become witches. It's the only role you get to write to yourself. I'll learn the words to spells out of older books, grow poisonous herbs and practice curdling milk, cast evil eyes. I'll summon a familiar, black cat or toad. I'll tell my grandchildren fairy tales in which princesses slay dragons or wicked fairies live happily ever after. I'll talk to birds, and they'll talk back to me, or snakes. The snakes might be more interesting. This is the way the story ends, she thinks. It ends, and then you get to write your own story. And that is the story of Snow White Does Witchcraft. Now you have heard her story before she went to the dwarfs, and you have heard her story after she went to the dwarfs. And that's what I find quite interesting, is the in-between bits, let's say. They are the most interesting, are they not? The Ogress Queen. I can smell him, little Helios. He smells of cinnamon and sugar. I can smell him even though he is down in the garden, playing with the ball, and his dog, whom he calls Pantoufle. Here, Pantoufle, he cries, here, catch. I would like to catch him by the collar, lick the back of his neck, suck up the beads of sweat between his shoulder blades. But it's a hot day, and there is no shade in the castle garden except under the lime trees. He would taste like brushy oozing butter. Oh, his cheeks so fat, so brown, as though toasted. He would taste like sugar and cinnamon and ginger. And then little Aurora, she, I am convinced, would taste of vanilla and almonds, like marzipan, less robust, more delicate than a brother. I would save her for after. Look, there she is in a white dress, all frills and laces like a doll covered with royal icing, rolling a hoop. If I dipped her in water, she would surely melt. And walking along the path, I see her mother, reading a book. Love poems, no doubt. She's very sentimental. She has kept every letter from my husband, the king. She has kept, somehow, a virtue intact, despite the violation, despite the rude awakening by 2 children she does not recall conceiving. She resembles a galette, rich, filled with succulent peaches and frangipan. I will eat her slowly, savouring her caramel air, her toes like raisins dried from muscat grapes. I will particularly enjoy her eyes, which stare at me with such limpid placidity, as though she had not stolen my husband. They will taste like candied citrons. Today I will go talk to the cook, while the king is away at war, and order him to serve them up, one by one, slice by slice, with perhaps a glass of Riesling. Then at last my hunger for my husband beside me in the bed at night, for a son to rule after him while I am regent, for warm, fragrant flesh, spiced and smelling of cinnamon. May I then be finally appeased. And that is the story of the Ogress, which does have a fairy tale to it regarding such matters. But that is the Ogress's side of that tale. That's why it's different. Thank you for listening, and happy October. Many blessings.